right, next question here. This is from Jerry Crawford again on Quora. Do daughters of narcissistic mothers typically marry narcissistic men?
Do daughters of narcissistic mothers
Oh, and I got a
typically
follow-up
marry
question of my own for you after this one.
This is I got to just confess, Jonathan. This is a weak link in my chain. Meaning, I get that a lot of times. Like are narcissists created by this or that, and do they tend to do this and that? And do we marry our fathers? Do we marry our mothers? Do we? I don't think in those terms, Jonathan. So my simplistic answer is this: do daughters of narcissistic mothers,
right?
Of narcissistic, selfish, self-centered, emotionally immature mothers. So they've been around emotional immaturity. They've been around poor boundaries. They've been around selfishness. They've been around all of this junk. So does that impact someone? Absolutely, it impacts them. A perfectly healthy human being, if there's probably 3 in the U.S., these perfectly healthy human beings were raised by really healthy, emotionally mature parents. And so then they knew what to look for. And so, does this daughter of the narcissistic mother, is she going to be inclined to repeat some junk? Without a doubt, because she will not have incorporated some healthy boundaries, healthy maturity, good judgment, all of that stuff that we know makes up a healthy human being. So in that sense, sure. What do you think?
Yeah, I agree with that. I think it's not necessarily like a 1-for-1 or some sort of equation here, but growing up with a narcissistic parent, you learn, well, first of all, there are certain behaviors and traits that just are inherently normalized as you grow up, and normalized meaning those behaviors don't become normal, but for you, you just sort of come to expect them, and the low level selfishness and emotional immaturity doesn't even, as an adult then growing up in that environment, might not even register on your radar because it's just so much a part of what you've been around. And so there's that piece of it where the awareness level is pretty low, especially for those kind of low level stuff. So it's easier to find yourself in a relationship where that is present. And then when the bigger stuff starts showing up, that person says, "Oh my goodness, why didn't I see those signs?" The other thing I think is that it's like I said, it's not exactly a 1-for-1, but that child of the narcissistic parent or narcissistic mother in this case has certain internalized messages that they believe that about themselves and about their parent and about what a relationship should look like or how they should respond, and they become conditioned to those types of responses.
I want to camp on something for a few minutes, Jonathan. You used a powerful concept. Would you say it again? That dysfunctional behavior, say it in your own words, dysfunctional behavior becomes normalized, so their awareness isn't heightened to how, quote, crazy, unquote,
right,
this stuff really is. Say that again, because I think it's really worth everybody thinking about.
I have to go back and remember what I said. This is really true for for any type of abuse, in particular abuse that occurs within the context of a relationship. And so these abusive dynamics become they're so pervasive that the low levels of these abusive behaviors and these dynamics don't even register on this person's radar for what would be healthy or safe or what is abusive. In the case of domestic violence or physical abuse, it could be that at some points the parent becomes very, very physical and aggressive with either their spouse or with their own children. But so the attention, the fear of that big thing happening is big, but
Mm.
the little stuff that just happens all day every day, the insults and the
Yeah.
intimidation tactics and all that, it just doesn't really register after a while because the bigger stuff is much more the focus.
I don't know if you've had this experience. I have this, no kidding. I have this experience every day. And here's what I'm going to illustrate. So I often work with couples throughout my work day. And when I model reflective listening and then I model validation, oh, it's really understandable that you would feel that way given my history, da 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 da. And then when I model empathy, oh my goodness, I really can sense that you da 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 da. Without exception, both of them. So what happens when I do that is she begins to cry almost without exception. When I model this empathic listening and validation, she cries and he looks at me and goes, I would never know how to talk like that. I don't even
Mm.
think like that. And he's sincere. And I take it as
Yeah.
a sincere response. This is foreign language because what's normal is she brings a concern, and I'm going to use the genders he and she again, not always a case, but she brings a concern. And what does he do? He defends himself. He talks over her. And so when I gently pause them and say, no, let's practice some other tools. And I practice reflective listening. I heard you say da 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 da, and I'm imagining that you're feeling da 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 da. And it's understandable that you would have that reaction given how I've been with you. And I just do this 2-minute deal. She starts to cry because she feels heard. And then she says to me, man, I am so desperate for that experience. And he looks at me kind of critically like, I, I don't talk like that. I don't think like that. So, to your point, what is normal is talking over each other, rebutting each other, defending against each other, a total lack of vulnerability. Sorry, I'm
Yeah.
going on a little bit of a rant here, but normalizing bad behavior. And so I think it's incumbent upon you and I as therapists to model and say, here's what healthy looks
Right.
like.
Right. Absolutely. That's the other piece that I was thinking of with in childhood. Um, the what goes on in your family, the dynamics that are present, what is modeled for you. That's the only thing that's modeled. So you don't have a bigger context. So
Yeah.
if that talking over each other and just arguing and rebutting points and not really listening, no empathy, if that is what is present in your home, that is very much normal for you and your relationships because that's the only thing that you've been modeled. That's the only thing really we're handed those blueprints for how to be in relationships later on in life. And unless somebody points to those plans and says, hey, this part's a little off and there's a better way to build this house or build this relationship, unless somebody points it out to us, it's
You,
really hard to just naturally have that awareness.
I want to comment on that point. So the world knows that I'm taking piano lessons. Applause for Dr. Hawkins, that he's a student and taking, but literally, Jonathan, literally every week, here's what happens. And I hope everybody will smile and send me some love here. Every week, my piano teacher, her name is Claire, she looks at me and she says something like this. Have you been playing it like that all week? Now, do you know what that means? That means I've
I
spent
got two
hours and
guesses.
hours and hours and hours and hours doing it wrong. And if I didn't have her, so this last week, this is a shout out to you, Claire. Last week, she pointed out, you're not playing the B flat right there. I said, I didn't see it. Yeah, it's there. So please play it. Oh, okay. Okay. Anyway, this happens every week, Jonathan, every week. And so, I mean, imagine my ego. Okay, well, let's not get off on Dr. Hawkins and his piano lessons. But to your point, unless somebody points out,
Right.
that's not the way it goes. That's not reflective listening. That's not empathy. That's not validation. But I can teach you empathy. I can teach you reflective listening. I can teach you validation. So everybody listening, if you don't have a teacher, if you're not in counseling, if somebody isn't showing you, you're probably doing it wrong.
Right.
Sorry to say, but look, come on.
So
right.
I think I might have asked you this. This brought up another question that or just an observation that I have. And forgive me, listeners, if I've brought it up in this podcast before. I know I've brought it up with Dr. Hawkins before. I just can't remember where we were. The thing that I have observed is it seems like there is an unusually high number of narcissistic men who describe their mothers as narcissistic. And yet I have I have seen very, very, very few narcissistic women in my office, in my practice. So I don't understand the numbers there. That's an observation, not a question. I guess the question is: Have you seen, or have you heard similar? Have you seen that pattern as well?
I have seen the pattern, and again, I think narcissistic, emotionally immature, self-centered, selfish men. I mean, they had the behavior reinforced and they learned it somewhere, somehow. Where did they learn it? Because remember, healthy parenting, everybody. I mean, your job, mine are long gone and grown, but yours, Jonathan, you're right they're in a formative stage, and you're socializing them. You're saying to them, yeah, no, no, the world does not revolve around you. No, you can't just, you might feel angry, but you can't throw things. You can't hit. I don't know what all you do, but you make it clear to your little ones that there's a way to deal with your emotions. So these men, if they got to age 40, 45, 50, 55, 60-year-old, whatever they are, and they're still having temper tantrums and doing antisocial, passive-aggressive things. Yeah, they learned it somewhere, and it was reinforced somehow, and now they're getting smacked with some reality. So, yeah, they're certainly it had to probably originated in the family of origin. That's a place for them to do some work, looking at what did they learn, what was deemed normal and okay. Perhaps their parent didn't like them behaving in selfish, immature ways, but it was tolerated in some respect, or the parents were selfish and self-centered, immature, and they were absent. There was a lack of guidance. That is often the case as well. All right. Anyway, thank you, Jonathan, for being with me today. And listeners, as always, if any of this resonates with you, please know we are available to help. You can contact our office and contact us at the Marriage Recovery Center by Googling www.marriagerecoverycenter.com and learn more about what we do. And you can find information about our show in the show's description. If you enjoyed today's show, please give us a 5-star rating, a 10-star rating, 5-star rating, and be sure to subscribe to our channel to be notified of new episodes. So thank you again for tuning in, and we will talk again soon. Take care.